Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So let's get straight to it.
Types of parties. Some of them get a little dark, but you gotta have fun, right?
You all saw that, right? That was very demonic. More and more people are going to start to see the true faces of people, not just celebrities. With all this talk about Ascension 5D, mass spiritual awakening of humanity, a lot of you guys are going to have your third eye open, and what you're going to see, you're not going to be prepared for. So people who have seen demonic attachments, this video of Usher is nothing surprising. They all do look like that. People who have demonic attachments, when your third eye is open and you look at them, their eyes are going to be very, very dark and almost murderous looking, menacing, like they're about to eat you. And then when they smile, instead of having normal teeth, it's almost going to be like jagged. But overall, the energy of someone who has a very severe demonic attachment on them, especially a parasitic demonic attachment, you can't even look them in their eyes. There's going to be a dark, heavy aura around them. And when you do look into their eyes, all you can think of in your head is, that person wants to eat me. Because guess what? The demon that's in them does want to eat you. Now, with the coming of the mass spiritual awakening that is going to happen very soon and is happening right now, people might start to freak out because they're going to see celebrities' face shape-shifting and morphing. They're going to see politicians' face morphing. Their neighbors, whatever. There might be a mass hysteria. Some of these demons are not even demons. They are higher or hyper-dimensional entities that have been here since the dawn of humanity. These are what the Bible call the fallen angelics, but I personally just call them hyper-dimensional entities. They are parasitic and they are from a place called the Phantom Matrix or the underworld. This is what people call hell. Now, I talk about all of this in my book, Made in God's Image, link in bio. If you want to learn more about these parasitic entities, these demons, these fallen angelics. But essentially, we need to start protecting ourselves from these energy vampires because all they want is your energy. You are louche, you are food to them. How you can protect yourself when you do start to see them is to just imagine your skin turning into a liquid mirror. Like pretend your skin is mirror. So when you walk out in public, because these demons are everywhere, they will not sense who you are. They will not see your light. You know the whole lore of vampires can't see their own reflection. It's not that they can't. It's just that they don't want to because they're hollow. They are parasitic. There's nothing to gain from seeing something that is hollow, which is themselves reflects back. So if you use this mirror technique, when these demonic entities look at you, they don't see anything to feed off of because they only see themselves. All I can say as a spiritual person is good luck to the rest of humanity when they start to realize everything that was taught to them is pretty much bullshit. And that this world is way more mysterious than we think it is.
Dang, Usher out here looking like Pookie, man. Look like he got it bad. What's going on? That look crazy. I don't know what to think on that one. Shout outs to Key That Guidance.
Difference between mental illness and demonic possession. First of all, they're not mutually exclusive. Some of the creepiest places I've ever been are psych wards in hospitals. They're crawling with demons because they hide under the disease. But we have three methods that we look to. One is superhuman strength. So if a 120-pound woman picks up a 300-pound man and throws him across the room 10 feet, that's certainly not her power. Second is a supernatural awareness of events or information they would not have access to normally. So I had a guy who was possessed and he didn't have a cell phone. He was just he lost his job, he lost his house, he lost his girlfriend, he lost everything. And I would just tell him, I'll be by, sometime in the middle of the week, because he didn't go anywhere. He was always home. And when I would show up, he would be waiting outside by the curb. And I would say, how did you know I was coming? And he would say, oh, they get so agitated when you're about 2 blocks away and I know that you're close and I just come out to greet you. Stuff like that. it's the person can't, a mental illness can't do that. And the third is knowledge of ancient or foreign languages.
Shout out to Father Dan Reehil. That DANREEHIL. So yeah, obviously he got a vast knowledge on this subject.
So this guy, he hates everything. Now his name's Justin. He hates his job, he hates that he's 32 and lives at home with his parents, but most of all, Justin hates the US government. In fact, he hates the government so much, he sues them several times over his student loan debt, and the lawsuits end up getting tossed out. And this makes Justin upset and bitter, and he starts thinking about starting some kind of revolution. But then, Justin gets a job in customer service at an insurance company, Progressive. And surprise, surprise, he hates that too. Specifically, he feels like they're not promoting him because he's a white man. So there he is, he's all fired up and full of anger, and he rants about society and the government and revolutions all the time on social media. He even writes a book about his grievances called A Revolution Leader's Survival Guide. He's just an all-around angry dude. But to his credit, despite being angry at everything, he still has control of himself. Until one day, Justin loses his job. He's at work and he aggressively kicks a door open for some reason, and Progressive fires him for this. So then he turns around and sues Progressive for wrongful termination. He claims that they're discriminating against him on the basis of sex because he's a man. And of course, the lawsuit is bullshit, so the court throws it out, and Justin is pissed. I mean, to him, this is just another instance of the government he hates shitting on the good, hardworking American people. Oh, but it gets even worse for Justin. Even though he really hates the government, his dad is actually a federal employee. His dad's worked for the government for like 20 years. He's some kind of engineer. And Justin despises this. Like, he and his dad fight about it all the time. He's like, "Dad, you're a traitor. You're part of the evil machine." And his dad's like, "I respectfully disagree and I still love you and support you." But then, one day, Justin has finally had enough. He knows things need to change and that some kind of revolution needs to happen. So Justin comes up with a plan. First, he writes a whole ass manifesto. Then he goes to a local pew-pew store and he buys himself a pew-pew. And the next morning, he waits for his mom to leave the house so that his dad will be alone. And then he goes over to his dad and he pulls out the pew-pew and he shoots his dad in the head, unaliving him. And if that isn't bad enough, he then gets a machete and he decapitates him. And he goes into his bedroom and he sits down at his desk and he hits record on his camera and he starts reading from his manifesto.
If you are a federal employee and are listening to this message, now is your last chance to resign from the side of the traitors and join your countrymen in taking back your country.
And in that video, he holds up his dad's head to the camera to show everyone. And I promise you, whatever you're imagining this scene is, it's worse. I've seen the video and it's fucking gruesome. Then he basically tells his viewers to go out and unalive any federal employee that they come across. And he asks them to unalive the head of the FBI, federal judges, the attorney general. Like, it's crazy. Then he stops recording and he uploads that video to YouTube. And then he swipes the keys to his dad's car and he gets in and he drives away. Sometime later, his mom gets home. And there, in the bathroom, she finds her husband unalived with no head. And she immediately calls the police and they start investigating. Now, this gruesome YouTube video he made, it's been up for a few hours at this point, and it starts circulating around, and it's up to about 5,000 views by the time YouTube finally catches it and they take it down. But by that time, police have already been notified about the video, and they immediately get a warrant to track Justin's phone to find out where he is. Meanwhile, Justin has already driven like 100 miles away at a National Guard training base, and there he manages to climb the barbed wire fence surrounding the area, and he's able to sneak on to the base. Now, I have no idea what he's planning on doing here, but he does still have his pew-pew on him, so I can guess. But luckily, the cops are able to track his phone. So while he's at the base, police locate him and they arrest him right there on the spot. Here's his mugshot. And on him, they find his pew-pew, they find a flash drive filled with pictures of government buildings, along with instructions on how to make explosive devices. Yikes. So they charge him with first-degree murder and some other terrorism charges, and he's in jail right now, waiting on his trial. That dude's just awful. Shout out to Pennsylvania.
Talk about twists and turns. I was not expecting the story to go that way. It totally went left. Crazy. The police caught him just in time.
So if y'all believe in Christianity and you think for 1 second that there was not a demon that was at that Met Gala, then you're sadly mistaken. You cannot dress like this and pretend to be these deity characters. Because once you dress up like something, you actually become that because you start playing that character. So believe me, if you're Christian, there was something demonic there.
There's all different types of guardians. Some of them get a little dark, but you gotta have fun, right?
Believe that human beings are demons.
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
I'm very honored to be able to receive this amazing award from the depths of my soul.
He definitely slipped up on that one. I feel like he noticed it too.
One of the greatest tragedies in life is that you will always be loved more than you will ever know. Someone in your class finds your presence inviting and warm, even if you've only exchanged a few words with them, or maybe none at all. Someone on the street loves your smile and it brightens their path for the next few blocks. Someone you used to be friends with still wishes to fondly call your name. Even someone you were friends with 5 years ago would give anything to be in the same room as you today. Someone who regularly comes into work is disappointed when you aren't there to brighten their day. Someone missed you today. Someone noticed when you were gone. Someone loves you when you're there. Someone loves you when you're nowhere to be found at all. You may think you have always disappeared when you're no longer in the picture, but you've never left the frame. We accept the love we think we deserve. We will never know the value of a person until they become a memory.
Shout out to Felisso Art. That was pretty deep. We accept the love we think we deserve. Some deep stuff.
There's something that connects the story of the demons from the time of Solomon with this particular time that we're living in. There is this mystical narration from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says, the time has almost come that some of the demons that Solomon had cast out in the sea will appear amongst you and sit with you in your masjids and teach you the Quran and talk to you about the ahadith. Well, who else did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warn us about in the end times? The non-working scholars. This is quite a shocking but important revelation, because now the Prophet Muhammad is saying that in his nation there will appear demons in the form of misguiding scholars. A misguiding scholar is a Dajjal, somebody who's trying to use religion to lead somebody astray.
This guy, let's call him Chuck. And Chuck is about to become one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history. So Chuck, he's a nurse, and one day he's at work, working at a hospital, and he looks down at a patient, and the patient is crying in pain. So Chuck looks at him, and Chuck is like, I really want to help this guy by putting him out of his misery. So then Chuck secretly injects the guy with a bunch of lidocaine. And the guy passes away. And I guess afterwards Chuck feels pretty good about himself because he does it again and again and again. He'll like sneak into their room and he'll secretly spike their IV drips with insulin. And then of course the patients will pass away. And he does this for a while. And over time, the hospital starts to wonder, why are so many patients overdosing on insulin? And Chuck is the nurse in charge of most of those patients. So he immediately becomes a prime suspect. But unfortunately, the hospital can't quite prove that Chuck intentionally unalived anyone. So they allow him to resign. And then a month later, Chuck takes a new job at a different hospital. There, he slips 3 elderly women a heart medication they don't need, called digoxin. The digoxin, of course, kills them. Then about a year later, he's working at another hospital. And there, same thing. He unalives a 91-year-old woman with digoxin. Then he gets a job at a rehab center. And there, one night, he sneaks into a patient's room while they're sleeping. And he's got a syringe, and he's about to unalive them. But luckily, the patient patient wakes up and fights back. And apparently there's some kind of struggle, and it ends with the patient having a broken arm. And so yeah, of course, then the rehab center fires Chuck. Oh, but Chuck, he just keeps on going. He, again, gets a new job at a new hospital, and there he unalives another patient with digoxin. Then he leaves that hospital and does the same thing at a new hospital. Then yet again at a different new hospital. He unalived 5 more people. So at this point, Chuck's been secretly unaliving people off and on for about 14 years. And no one has ever really caught him because no one can prove he's the one who's doing it. Until one day, Chuck gets a job at a new medical center, and there he meets an ICU nurse. Her name's Amy, and Amy likes Chuck. She thinks he's a good nurse who has a lot of knowledge about medicine, so quickly Chuck and Amy become work friends. They talk all the time at work, he really opens up to her, but secretly, on the side, Chuck is still murdering his patients. Then, one day, an assistant pharmacist working at the hospital pharmacy, they notice a suspiciously high amount of deaths in one ward, and the deaths are all due to overdoses of insulin and digoxin. And police, they start looking into these deaths and they start connecting the dots, and all roads are pointing to Chuck being the one responsible. So the hospital immediately fires him, which sucks for Chuck, but police realize Chuck can just go get a new job at a different hospital, and police want to stop that from happening. They want to charge him with murder, but first, they have to find proof. So they go to Chuck's friend, Amy, and they tell her everything. Everything Chuck's been doing, he's been unaliving patients. They show her all the proof they have, and Amy is shocked. I mean, this is her friend. So police ask her if she'll help them bust Chuck. She'll wear a wire, and she can go meet up with him and see if she can get him to confess. And it's a tough decision, I'm sure, but Amy ultimately agrees. So she wears the wire, and then she hits up Chuck, and she asks him to meet her at a restaurant. So then Chuck comes to the restaurant to meet her, and they're talking. And Amy's clever. Once she gets him talking, she gets him to admit everything he's done. All the unalivings, all the patients, exactly how he did it, everything. And she records the whole thing. So finally, after a 16-year spree, Chuck is finally arrested. Here's his mugshot. And when all is said and done, he admits to unaliving around 45 patients total. Although in retrospect, they actually think it might be closer to 300. But they can't really prove it due to lack of records. Regardless, Chuck goes to trial, he's found guilty, and he's sentenced to 11 different life sentences, like over 400 years in prison. I don't think he's getting out.
I don't think he's getting out either. Shout outs to the real Ray William. Beast Boy's shirt is fire. My condolences to the families of the innocent people. All these 14 years of hospitals, were they not checking his references?
That demon is back. He goes today by the name of and this demon is known as the Prince of all demons. He is extremely powerful, extremely knowledgeable. He is one of the highest, and sometimes he appears as the highest of all of them. And that demon, his name was Ashmedai, and he also goes by Asmodeus. Okay? And he usually appears in paintings as a 3-headed demon with the head of a man and the head of a bull and the head of a ram who's sitting on top of a dragon. And usually one of his feet is the feet of a cock or a rooster, a chicken. The name of Asmodeus in Arabic is Sakhr. Sakhr means rock. And rock was his name because Solomon eventually casts him and locks him inside of a stone. He ends up being locked in there for a while and cast into the sea, eventually to come out in this day and age. And today he actually sits as a lifeless body, exactly as described in the Quran. He is sitting in Najaf.
It's important that you have full understanding of the construct of geocentric electromagnetic universe. Again, we're not on a ball. Earth consists of concentric rings of physical lands spiraling out from 0-point axis at the center, just like a drop of water that falls into a larger body of water, creating a ripple effect beginning from its point of impact. refer as the magnetic North Pole. Central Pole is not just a metaphor, but an actual physical marker or magnetic pillar. The war in Iraq is a lie. They know what's in there. A realm of massive door gates that made up of metals. That it is not what we've seen today, inhabited by other extraterrestrial beings or civilizations, which we Muslims considered it as the unseen. I know it sounds crazy. Each of these four-dimensional realms have their own echo: lunar, solar and seasons, sun and moon, which is our current wandering stars. That's what NASA called planets. Let's just break it down this way. Saturn and Jupiter being the solar sun and lunar moon of the outermost ring domain, or the realm of Earth. Mars and Venus being the solar sun and lunar moon of the next concentric domain of Earth as main realm. Beyond southern Antarctic boundary, the aurora australis electromagnetic field. Mercury within inner realm beyond northern Arctic boundary, and aurora borealis electromagnetic field. Inner star Mercury is androgynous, both solar sun and lunar moon in one, sometimes referred as the inner Earth sun or black sun. That is why we have eclipses, solar eclipses. It's not the shadow of the Earth, or as what Elon Musk says, Planet X. Spiral expansion of Earth, time, and matter continues to be. Subhanallah.
One of the worst cases I've ever heard was from the Exodus of New York City. The woman, a young girl at Juilliard, a violinist, and she was about to graduate. She was brilliantly talented, but all of her friends were getting job offers and she had none. And her friends remember always hearing her say the words, "I would do anything to be famous." Well, guess who's listening? It wasn't long after that she went to bed one night, had a dream, and she said in the dream was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen, naked, another sign, calling card of the devil. And he said, "You really want fame and power?" And she said, "I do." And he produced a contract, and he took his finger and slashed her finger and had her sign it in her blood. And then he touched the contract and it burst into flames and the ashes fell on the floor. So pretty easy to understand what happened, right? But what's worse is her finger was cut and the ashes were next to the bed. So within a couple of weeks, she signs this multinational tour, makes a ton of money, becomes very popular and famous on this circuit. And within a few years, she gets involved with drugs, goes to needles, gets HIV. Now she's dying in a New York hospital. And this whole thing comes back to how this started. And she calls her Filipino mother and tells her the story. And mommy calls the chancery. "I need an exorcist right away for my daughter." So Jim is the exorcist. He shows up and they tell him the whole story from the dream forward. And he says, "Okay, well, that's not good. You signed a blood covenant with the devil. So I'm going to need you to break that with the blood covenant. So you're going to write out the whole creed and then you're going to sign it in your blood." Well, the doctor's like, "She has AIDS. She's not signing anything in blood. Not going to happen." And he says, "Well, then you need to step out of the room because she needs to do this." And she did do it. And she signed the contract, the creed, and she convulses and flatlines and dies. So now the doctor comes back and he's really upset. The mother is out of her mind. They're all blaming the priest. Hysteria goes on for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden she jumps up off the table. She's back. And they test her. No HIV, no AIDS. She's completely healed. She then committed for the rest of her life to only do music that would honor God and to tell people about the reality of the devil and not to make deals with him.
Yeah, that one got deep, full of twists and turns. I don't think it gets any creepier than that. Making a deal in your dreams. Whoa, guess they say, be careful what you wish for.
So one day, this woman is skydiving, and she's done this 1,000 times. But this time, when she goes to deploy her parachute, it doesn't open. No big deal, she'll just use her reserve chute. But then that doesn't open either. And that is when she starts panicking. So her name's Els, and Els loves skydiving. So much so that every weekend she'll leave her husband and kids at home and she'll spend that time jumping out of planes. Now Elle has a friend she skydives with sometimes, this guy, who we'll call Lover. Because eventually, Lover and Elle spend so much time together, they end up smashing. So every weekend, Els will leave her family, go skydiving, and smash with Lover. Now, unbeknownst to Els, Lover is also hooking up with this other woman, who we'll call Side Piece. Side Piece is also a skydiver, and she's way into Lover. Now, she knows Lover is seeing Els, and she doesn't like it. She wants Els out of the picture, so then Side Piece gets to work trying to make that happen. She writes an anonymous letter to Els' husband, tipping him off about the affair, but that doesn't work, and Side Piece ends up very frustrated. She anonymously calls Els at home and breathes heavily into the phone, trying to intimidate her. That doesn't work either, and Side Piece ends up even more frustrated. Here's the thing though, Els and Side Piece are actually friends. They go skydiving together all the time, and Els has no idea Side Piece is trying to ruin her fling with Lover. So Side Piece's frustration continues to build and build and build until one night, Side Piece and Lover go out to dinner, and when they get back to Lover's place, Els is there waiting. Like, hey, Lover, surprise, I'm here to hang out. So now, Side Piece has to hang out with the both of them and pretend she's not jealous as shit. Now, I don't know exactly what was said or how this happened, but somehow they all three end up staying the night at Lover's place, with Els and Lover sleeping in Lover's bed, and Side Piece sleeping in a sleeping bag on Lover's living room floor. And so Side Piece, I imagine, is laying there on the living room floor, and all this frustration is built up. And finally, in that moment, she loses it. So she gets up and she gets a pair of scissors and she gets Els' skydiving gear, because Els had all her gear there, and she starts cutting things on Els' parachute. She removes the pilot chute, this little part here. She cuts off some very important straps and drawstrings and all kinds of stuff. Fast forward to 2 weeks later when Els and Lover and Side Piece are all scheduled to do a jump together with a larger group. And 4 of them plan on doing one of those formations that skydiving groups sometimes do. So they go up in the plane and they all jump out and they do the formation. And it's a little sloppy, Side Piece jumped late, whatever. So they do the formation and then they give the signal for everyone to deploy their parachute. And everyone does. But Els, her parachute doesn't open. And Els has been doing this a long time. She doesn't panic. She just goes to open her reserve chute. But then that doesn't open either. And that is when she starts panicking. She's scrambling to try and get the chute or the emergency chute to open, but nothing works, and Els free falls over 2 miles down to the ground. Meanwhile, down below, a woman is out in her yard, and suddenly, she hears a crash. She looks around in some bushes, and she sees Els. And obviously, Els doesn't make it. Now, police, they start investigating all this. They take Els' parachute, they bring it to a parachute expert, and pretty quickly, parachute expert is like, someone tampered with this. And more importantly, he notices the pilot chute is missing. Then, for some reason, Side Piece goes to police and is like, hey, Els' gear wasn't sabotaged. I found the pilot chute, I guess, on the ground. Here's the thing, though. Police never told anyone the pilot chute was missing. And they're like, how'd you know the pilot chute was missing? Bitch, now you're a suspect. And after they investigate a little more, they find out about the love triangle between Side Piece, Els, and Lover. And that Side Piece had slept in the living room that night near Els' skydiving gear. So they bring her in for questioning more than once, and one of the times she doesn't show up because I guess she was trying to unalive herself, which police feel makes her look even more guilty. So they arrest her, she goes to trial, she's found guilty. Here's what she really looks like. She's sentenced to 30 years in prison, and she spends about 12 and a half years in, and she got out last year. And all this happened in Belgium, so shout out to Belgium.
And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we're gonna do, y'all? That's right. Run these numbers up. Thanks again. Until next time.